Hi folks, with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. Please listen to this presentation as you would a radio broadcast. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the issue of as advances in artificial intelligence, AI, sort of move forward at leaps and bounds, as they seem to be at the moment. There's a real issue about verifying that you are a human. How can you tell the difference between the AI-generated image and a real human? Now, if you go onto AI and pose certain questions and so on, the response is, well, depending on what you're asking, I guess, but the response is pretty quick. So if you didn't know you were dealing with an AI, you could be dealing with, another human. You just wouldn't know. The line that would separate AI from dealing with another human is becoming quite blurred, as far as I can see, at least. Now, this is the view of many others around town. For example, it's believed that something like 30% of job applicants are AI generated, that the people that are applying for things online, whether it's an application for, I don't know, anything, could be a passport, a travel pass, social security, food stamps, I don't know, insurance policy. It doesn't matter. The any sort of online thing where you're not physically there, the human isn't physically there to do it. Online shopping, this could all be done by, and is being done by, AI. So the claims that some are putting forward is that as much as 50% of all online interactions where there is no human interaction, where it's, in effect, sort of computer to computer type communications, this is being done or handled all or in part by AI. So now various websites have moved recently to verify you're a human, and some are even, if you're new in registering on a particular website, and it could be any website, a shopping website, a business website, a video posting website, whatever, that if you're new and trying to register for the first time, that they want you to verify that you're a human. And to do that, they have to become very intrusive. They have to have a lot of personal details. What is your home address? What is your date of birth? Even just for registering on something that where you're not drawing a benefit or drawing any value from it, they're still wanting. And so some of these things are becoming more and more intrusive. And now the websites that I've been on for years, whether in a business or other capacity, and they're still pushing for, why don't you give us your home address? It'll make it easier for everybody. No, it won't. Fuck off. My home address is my business. But this sort of, so the AI has created this doubt that what's human and what's not. And then the follow-up demand of this, well, you, the human, have to prove who you are. We're not going to restrict AI or put any controls on that. You, the human, are the one who's going to be controlled. And you have to verify who you are, that you're a real human. And to do that, we're going to need a lot of personal details. And I've got a real problem with that. Now, if I'm getting a benefit, like if I say, I don't know, apply for a government benefit or something, food stamps, then I would anticipate that there would be an intrusive sort of validation of who you are. But the reverse then applies, because if you're brown or a black lesbian or something applying for government benefits, then you fall into the victim class. So applying for government benefits, then you fall into the victim class. So the verification process is very soft. The imperative is to get you the benefit, not to verify who you are. So what's really happening is that it's straight white males, or white people, straight white males in particular, are the only ones that are going to be required to verify who they are. Everyone else can still avoid the verification process and still fall within the, so they will disappear not only into the mean streets and the crowds, all the non straight white male type people, but they'll also disappear into the crowds of cyberspace. They don't have to verify. And then amidst all the artificial intelligence, artificial fake creations of people, they can hide even more effectively than they could on the street. So it's having a rather perverse backhanded effect on things, I would argue. Now, coming to the issue of transactions, when you think about it, you had to say before, online commerce became the big thing. And certainly before COVID, the idea was that you would go to a shop and buy your stuff. And now the shops have become more or less changing rooms. Then you go online to buy it for half the price you'd pay in the shop. But the thing is that much of the commerce we conduct now is online. It's not. There's a certain convenience to that. Recently there's something, if I want to buy in a shop, it's $70, and I've got to go to the shop. The shop only has limited opening hours, all this sort of stuff. But I can go online and buy something really 24/7 instead of $70, $80. It's $50, and as long as I don't need it now, then a couple of days later it arrives by some sort of parcel express, and that's it. So I've been inconvenienced, well, minimally. So it's only if you need something right now on demand that it becomes an issue where you physically need to go out and buy stuff. Even then, you can still get stuff delivered. You just have to pay an exorbitant rate for the on-demand service. So increasingly, business is being done online. To the point where it's your food, your dinner is delivered at night, or your meals are delivered, and all the things that you need. So there's not much you need to do. And also on remote working is if you've been hired as a remote worker, you could exist as an AI generated bot. You wouldn't need to be a human. So this idea of verifying that a human's there is a big deal. But how far has it gone? Now, if you come from a third world country, I'll use the Indian subcontinent here because it's got a population on the Indian subcontinent of more than 2 billion. That's India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and so on. And nearly all these people want to get the fuck out of India. They're gagging. Like 1.5 billion people are gagging to get into the West and get all the free stuff. They don't realise they'll just turn the West into an even worse shithole than they came from. That's not in there. They can't, conceive it. They can't think more than one free handout ahead. That's their total comprehension of the universe. So they want to get it, and so nearly all the job applications that are made are there. Or there's a vast industry, not all, but there's a vast industry of job applications for jobs in the West that are made by AI. These people just pay a fee, and then they just tick the boxes of what jobs, and then mass job applications are sent out, all created by AI. And the AI will even, in these places, they'll even take photographs of you, and then so if there's an online interview, say for example, then you can have an AI bot using the photographs of your head, AI bot doing the interview. And so this is, and you can even put parameters in, like if you've got a really thick accent, my name is Rajid, and then you can have that softened and made far more Western or much less parochial Indian, that sort of thing. And so you can get that done. So throughout the whole process, and again, in remote worker, if you need to attend a meeting, you just get AI to boot up your bot image, and they'll attend the meeting. And AI has got to the point where it's pretty close on good enough where it's can give an answer. So if someone in the meeting in I don't know, Washington or London, or someone asks a question, so Rashid, what are you doing about this? Or Ram, what are you doing about that? Then that goes to the AI. It comes back, well, we're doing this and doing so and so. So the whole thing can be done by. So you wouldn't know. And I think particularly when you're dealing with people from another country, where you expect a bit of a sort of a cultural delay because they're not on your exact same wavelength. They're just cheap workers. Then you could get away with that, and you could so sitting exams, online applications, online tests, the whole thing can all be taken by AI, and human doesn't need to be involved. So what will be the process of verification? Again, the verification is all moving towards verifying straight white males, in effect. And the verification on brown people and minorities is considered racist. So you kind of don't really do it. But if you're applying for or wanting to join up or become a member of any online forum, things like that, then increasingly they're wanting to verify that you are a human. So there's a disincentive for, well, certainly from my point of view anyway, there's a disincentive. Why do I want to have to give away all these personal details? There are places, there are now online job networks, online job boards, that sort of thing, where they won't allow you to apply for the job. This is particularly the case where, say, international people and lower level jobs in, say, retail. I think they won't let you apply for the job until you've supplied a home address and you've pre-supplied all sorts of things that verify that you're a real person and that you are a local resident and this sort of stuff. Now, it still doesn't stop people. They just use the address of their cousin or their nephew or something like that. So who is in Australia or in the West. So it doesn't change anything. But just talking to somebody recently, and they were trying to hire some lower level, like a landscape gardener or something like that, I think it was, and they got a voluminous response to their advert, but 90% plus of it was all from like India and Bangladesh and Pakistan. And structured in such a way as they were very dubious about, that these people were not AI bots, or using AI to handle the process. So this idea of verifying the human, I think, is going to get worse. Now, we've all seen dystopian, futuristic movies where they can't tell the difference between the robot, the Terminator, and all sorts of movies like that, where they can't tell the difference between the robot, or the cyborg, and the human, and there's usually some little feature that the cyborg manufacturers can't get right. Maybe there's something in the hands or the eyes or something like that, and so they show me your hands, and that's how they verify. So I think we're moving towards that, and the bigger the role that AI takes, the more we're going to find that the line is blurred between humans and AI, and the more intense will be and the more shrill and the greater the demands will be for verification. But will this just be a way of, only straight white males need to be verified, everyone else gets a free pay? I mean, how will this play out, given the countervailing forces of, well, we can't be racist, and any attempt to get a brown person to verify is something that only Hitler would do, and all that sort of stuff. How is that going to play out? And also, we've got some other issues where the majority of jobs AI will take are knowledge-intensive jobs, as in sit at your desk and it's knowledge work rather than manual labor work. So AI can't successfully climb under your toilet to fix the plumbing, or there's so the physical jobs, physically delivering parcels and things like that. Could you actually have enough drones flying around delivering parcels? It's still going to be a physical job. So the low-paid physical jobs, the retail assistant in the store, and the low-paid physical jobs, the shit money jobs, they're still going to be there. Maybe not all, but certainly most. And the intellectual property type jobs, they're going to be less and less needed as the role of AI will be greater. So previously, automation was replacing repetitive jobs. but there's a limit to what jobs can be replaced there. But in the intellectual property area, it was never perceived that, or certainly hadn't been until recently, that the AI type robotics could replace those sort of jobs. Now it is. You're looking at, say, journalists. Will a journalist be there? Will a script writer for a movie? Will a screenplay writer for movies? There'll be a whole lot of things that novelists, lawyers, even a whole lot of things are going. For example, a AI can access 100 years of case law all across the country or all across the world, and that can be done in seconds. And part of a lawyer's job is to explain the law to a judge, to say, well, in this case, the case law in this area is, and in the year 1996, the Supreme Court decided this, or an appeal court decided that, and for these reasons, and this is how it relates to this case, and so on. So, and judges themselves being replaced. I mean, that would, given the rapidly declining quality of judges, I think AI replacing them would be a good thing. But the whole idea is that, or the way this will play out, is that AI, robots, or just using the term AI, can replace a lot of these intellectual property type jobs, knowledge intensive type jobs, computer programming, the list goes on, and this will disproportionately affect white people. So if you look at where straight white males are employed, then it's quite possible, and over the next 25 to 50 years, that all their jobs will disappear. That other than politicians, and they'll be just goons controlled by the globalists anyway, other than politicians and a few little pockets here and there, or again, the manual labour jobs, that there won't be work for anyone to do. It'll all be replaced by AI. Is that direction we're going in? And what will it mean? You've been with Tassels today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.